We
Fun.
will
We're gonna have
try.
some fun.
Definitely. Oh yeah, definitely. Talking ethics is always a lot of fun, especially for all the new cats out there. So welcome everybody. So we are currently going right now. Yeah, that's
Okay, welcome.
business. So I'm here with David Jacobs. He's been a broker associate for how many years now?
Broker for 4 years, agent for 12 in Florida.
Okay, so there you go. He's actually got some experience, and he knows more about what he's talking about than I know what I'm talking about sometimes, only sometimes. So today we're going to be going over a few things about ethics and how they play out in the real estate sector. I understand that there's been some changes or something like that.
There have been updates and changes. Many of you, I hope, have gone and taken your code of ethics classes, because it's required by the end of the year for NAR. If you haven't, your license could be in jeopardy for renewal.
Yeah.
That's one thing. So there are some things going into, let me, as an intro, we are Realty Partners. I'm a broker associate here. I'm one of the founding members. We have about 90 agents, and I continue recruiting new agents who are finding it a really fun and interesting place to work and an ability to retire long term. We have continuing education, as you can see from the pod that Joe's doing. We do this weekly. Is that weekly?
Yeah, we do this whole thing weekly. So everybody else out there can look at my lovely face and, you know, get all that going on. So.
I hope you saw her in her bunny outfit. Was that a bunny outfit?
No, it was a bat. It was a bat. I was bat person.
All right, let's get right into this. There's some changes for 2019 for standards of code and ethics. We'll go over these quickly, and just to start off so you get the feeling for where we're going. The fines have increased considerably going into next year. By the way, I'm also on the grievance committee for Sarasota Manatee Association. So for me, this is a need for firsthand knowledge. I'll probably be arbitrating some cases. So if you see me in the future, I hope not. Just want to let you know that. We're going to go over arbitration and lawsuit issues as we go through this to help you avoid those kinds of things. But the first section of this, and I'm going to go through the book quickly just for the highlights. The antitrust reminder is number one. Realtors are competitors, and healthy competition allows the market to survive. However, with regard to antitrust laws, have a lot to do with discussing commissions out loud together, which is not allowed. The severity and penalties in Florida should avoid you to be very cautious about any antitrust laws that you are aware of or need to be aware of.
So rule number one, don't talk about your paycheck.
No, the paycheck's fine. Don't talk about commissions as being a definite thing.
Okay, so just saying, like, just because someone says that it's going to happen doesn't mean that necessarily will.
Well, you can't discuss with another agent talking about a uniform commission.
Okay.
This is the standard, or you're telling the customer this is a standard commission. That's not true. When you're talking about to another broker to broker or agent to agent, discussing rates is an antitrust issue.
Okay.
And trying to, because it can lead to other things. There's a section in the code on students, which I'm going to pass over. We're going to get to the objectives of the code of ethics. And what it is a promise of professionalism. What you want to do is identify key aspirational aspects of the preamble of the National Association of Realtors Code of Ethics. As many of you know, the consumer doesn't really understand or know what a realtor is. Another agent on the other side of your deal knows what a realtor is, and that is a sense of that there's some fair dealing, honest dealing, and they're living up to certain standards. Just to be aware right now, there is agents who are not realtors operating in the marketplace, and they are often called Thompson Realtors. I think that a lot of you and your MLS will reduce the commission to that category, but there are people out there who are not realtors, and if you're dealing with them on the other side of the table, you should exercise some caution.
So what's the difference then between these Thompson Realtors and then these other ones?
Thompson Realtor is not registered, as not a member of the association or NAR,
Okay.
National Association of Realtors. They do not have to abide by these code of ethics, and It's a buyer beware situation.
Okay, so it's best to have someone that actually has that symbol on the end of their name.
You want a trusted partner on the buyer or seller side who's a realtor.
Okay.
And if you're a realtor, then you've had to sign off and take in the code of ethics, which is why we're here today.
Okay. So it's all about signing your life away in blood and saying like, hey, you know, I'm actually this wicked, awesome person that you don't have to be afraid of.
Well, it's not so much that as that it's an honor system. The code of ethics was established about in the early 1900s for realtors. The only other groups that have a code of ethics professionally are attorneys and financial advisors.
Okay.
That's pretty much it.
Okay.
From a business ethics, NARD code of ethics situation is, what are business ethics? Industry codes and standards. We all know what 475 is, which is the basic code. But the real code is 61. The code that's established by 61 is what really is adjudicated in a grievance or a time when there's a conflict or a challenge.
So what kind of conflict would that be, I guess? So I was reading a little bit of the code of ethics before we went on, and it was saying that there are several different situations that can happen in terms of conflict. Are most of them money-based, or would they be something else?
Good question, Joe. Thanks. Oftentimes it's in a transaction where the buyer agent and the seller agent get into a conflict or a sense that they've been wronged.
Mm-hmm.
There's overreaching on a deal, or there's misrepresentation on a deal.
Okay.
And it's being pushed. And this would be a case where an agent would file a claim with the association, and then it would be investigated, and it would be brought before the panel for help in resolving it. I'll get right into that now, and that is the issue of the challenges are usually arbitrated by a member of the grievance committee for both parties. Hopefully that has worked out and it's resolved. And be honest with you, I've heard that 95% of the challenge cases that are brought before the board are disposed of this way. If it goes further than that, and there's a lot of anger and issues regarding the right and wrong of something, that might escalate up to then a challenge that would have to be adjudicated by a committee member of the grievance committee. They would be called an arbitrator, and they would then take interviews. It would be set before the board, and then there'd be a determination of how to move forward.
So what's the difference between arbitration and mediation?
Well, we're stepping up to arbitration and mediation. Mediation is the least expensive way to adjudicate a claim.
And we can all appreciate cheaper solutions.
And that is the step before it goes to a lawsuit. Lawsuits are very expensive. Mm-hmm. And also the fines are very high, and the cost of court costs are very high. So it can put an agent out of business if they go that way. It's a challenge to really kind of think your way through that before you take that next step. But mediation is the most used system of adjudicating these cases, and that's a good thing.
Okay.
As my instructor said, anybody that doesn't take mediation is crazy.
Shoot, I'd say. I mean, like, especially if it's the cheaper option to go with rather than anything else. I don't understand why. I guess someone would choose to go ahead and escalate it unless you have a reasonable cause. I mean, that's the only thing that I can think of.
The grievance is very high in that case. It could be, I don't want to get into specifics, but the challenge to the transaction or how somebody was treated unethically, maybe unlawfully, would go that way. Okay. Here we have some aspirational concepts of the preamble of the code. Under all is the land. It is everything. So the land is the most important thing. We want to follow the golden rule, which is an interesting concept because there are amoral concepts in terms of the right and wrong of things. So everybody's not dealing necessarily on the same plane in terms of conscience and what is right and wrong.
Yeah, I guess it's just more or less the rule of going, you know what, just don't be mean.
That's worse than that sometimes.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's cutthroat business sometimes, from what I understand. I mean, it's not easy being in the real estate business, especially nowadays with, God, how many are there? How many real estate people are there? Or how many realtors, I guess I should say?
Or in Sarasota County.
Just in Sarasota
I think
alone.
it's 6,500 or up to 7,000.
That's insane.
Okay, what we want to do is maintain and improve the standards of our calling. This is the whole reason for the Code of Ethics. We want to share a common responsibility for the integrity and honor of the real estate profession. Become and remain informed about issues affecting the real estate business. You want to share your experience and expertise with others, which is what I'm trying to do today. Identify and eliminate practices that damage the public or might discredit or bring dishonor to the real estate profession. It's probably the main area of grievances. You want to urge exclusive representation of our clients, except if you're a transaction broker. Refrain from taking unfair advantage of competitors is a big issue. Don't make unsolicited comments about our practitioners, and meaning do not disparage competitors in any way. It's not good for the industry, and it's not good for you.
I was going to say, realtors, from what I understand, already have a little bit of a bad rap.
And I'll get into that now. If your opinion is sought about a competitor, or if you believe a comment is necessary, offer it in an objective and professional manner.
I think that should be one of the key takeaways, because there's a lot of people out there that are willing to go ahead and trash somebody instead of saying, you know, this here is just what I've noticed. Here's like, just, this is a subjective point. I mean, I don't know. How would you go about that? Like, what's an example that you could give?
Well, let me continue on this a little bit, because you don't have a short amount of time. And last two items in this area are, remember the term Realtor stands for competency, fairness, high integrity, moral conduct, and business relations. That is what the other side of the table sees when they see a realtor in your car. And keep in mind that no inducement of profit or instruction from clients can justify departure from the codes of duties. But I don't want to get into the particulars. The structure of the code, there are a few major sections: duties to clients and customers, duties to the public, and duties to realtors. Code 17 articles are broad statements of ethical principles. Violation of the articles can result in disciplinary action. Realtors may not be found in, realtors may not be found in violation of a standard of practice, only its foundational article. That was crossed out in magic marker, so I couldn't read it.
Sorry. No, I highlighted that because I thought it was important.
Hey, you're doing great.
I try. No, I just said, the realtors cannot be found in violation of a standard of practice, only its foundational article. I guess I was going, well, what's the difference between a foundational article and what they were just saying in that little bit? That was a little bit of source of confusion for me. But then again, I'm a layperson, so.
You're doing great. Standards of practice may be cited in support of alleged violations of an article, as interpreted by the standards and practices. This is probably a reference point in case you feel offended to look at it and then move forward.
Okay.
The official case interpretations are specific fact situations that explain articles or standards. I'm not going to really get into that today for the amount of time, but we have specific examples of cases. If you're interested, you can get in contact with us. How did the code evolve? Amendments to the code and standards of practice and the official interpretation are made at the NAR mid-year meetings and the Realtors Conference Expo. So it's twice a year. NAR Interpretations and Procedures Subcommittee frequently make recommendations to the Professional Standards Committee about enhancements to professional standards and procedures. All proposed changes to the code, to the policies and procedures by which the code is enforced, must be approved by the Board of Directors. Amendments to the 17 articles must be approved by the delegate body. So
pretty much nothing goes without them saying so.
Correct.
Okay.
And those reviews are done because of the apparent frequency or new issues that come up with regard to grievances, whether to the degree of importance, and whether it's seen as a trend nationally that has to be dealt with. Have you been noticing any particular trends lately that might need to be, or what exactly was addressed in this latest review? No, there are no immediate trends that were brought up other than specific examples of cases that you had to choose yes or no, was it a grievance. But there are I really don't want to get into specifics on that because this is more theory. We can do that another time, but I do have examples which I can go over some other time. How long do we have today? We have as much time as you want. Oh, really? Yes. As much time as you want. I'm in trouble now. With regard to pathways to professionalism, these professional courtesies are intended to be used by realtors as a voluntary basis and cannot be the basis of a professional standard complaint. Respect for the public. respect for property, and respect for your peers.
So pretty much respect all around and don't be a general bad person.
Yeah, specifically, we've highlighted a couple of items per paragraph here to give you an idea.
Yeah.
Respect for the public. Communicate with all parties in a timely fashion. As you know, if you have a listing, there's nothing worse than not communicating with your seller on a weekly basis in writing to keep up with the trend. Specifically, if you're trying to maneuver a price decrease in the offering. We want to present a professional appearance at all times, dress appropriately, and drive a clean car. The first two of these are, I see, a gross violation many times, where agents are not dressed as professionals, business attire, in dealing with their customers on calls or in public in general.
So wearing a Tommy Bahama shirt and cargo shorts and flip-flops is completely out of the question?
It really is, unless you go to Siesta Key or Longboat.
Okay, all right. I'll be sure to write that down in my my attire listings.
I don't think that works either.
You sure? I mean, it could work. I mean, could work.
Leave your business card if not prohibited by local laws. You know, a lot of agents who have listings want to see who was there. Leave your business card. They want to follow up on showtime. This is a bad practice of not doing that. Most of the listings I've had, agents have been pretty good, but sometimes it's like pulling teeth.
Yeah, I've noticed that one myself too, and I'm working the back end over here, so I totally get that.
There are at least 21 items in this particular section. It's too much to go on to here, but promise only what you can deliver and keep your promises.
Truth. I think that's a good general code all around, to be completely honest, not just for realtors, but for anybody in business.
Respect for the property. Be responsible for everyone you allow to enter the listed property. This is a great opportunity for a group of 3 or 4 or 5 to go in different directions in a home. It sets the home up for thievery or isolated damage. You need to kind of corral your group when they come into the house to preserve the integrity of the house. Never allow buyers to enter a listed property unaccompanied. When showing property, keep all members of the group together, as I said. Never allow unaccompanied buyers access to property without permission. On and on. So
no parties at any listings. Like, you can't just be like, oh, hey, look at this awesome.
Only broker open.
Okay, all right. So, hey, Thomas, by the way, no.
Here's a big one. When the occupant is absent, leave the property as you found it. Lights, heating, cooling, drapes, etc. If you think something is amiss, vandalism, contact the listing broker immediately. That statement is for buyers, basically.
Yeah.
Be considerate of the seller's property. Do not allow anyone to eat, drink, smoke, dispose of trash, use bathing or sleeping facilities, or bring pets. Leave the house as you found it unless instructed otherwise. I
thought the sleeping thing on there was a little bit interesting. The fact that they had to put that on there, I was going, okay, I'm guessing someone actually tried this.
This is a big one from the past. Respect seller's instructions about photographing or videotaping the interior of the property. A lot of agents think they can photograph a listing property and use it in their promotioning of themselves, which they cannot do. They cannot take pictures of the interior and use them for their own purposes.
Okay.
So this is something I see cropping up all the time, and it can be a grievance issue, a big grievance issue.
So no commercial use of any client-specific photos.
You cannot take pictures yourself.
Okay.
Of the front of the house, the interior, and use them for your own promotional purposes.
Okay.
It is a grievance.
What if I get the home seller's permission to use it in?
It's a listing, so you'd have to work with the agent.
Okay, so
the issue is advertising against the agent's listing.
Okay, all right, that makes sense.
Also, there's security reasons. If you're advertising in some haphazard place and it's not your listing, you might be responsible for somebody showing up that shouldn't be there, like on Craigslist, for instance.
Oh my goodness.
This is a respect for peers, which is probably the big thing about realtors working together. Identify your realtor and professional status in all contacts with other realtors. Respond to other agents' calls, faxes, and emails promptly and courteously. Be aware that large electronic files with attachments or lengthy faxes may be a burden on recipients and may also end up in the spam file. So you've broken down your communication and you don't even know it. You don't get a response back That's a big thing.
Mm-hmm.
There are technologies that allow you to send large files, so you should look into those. I want to get to that now.
Yeah.
Notify the listing broker if there appears to be inaccurate information in the listing. That's been very helpful to me, and I'm sure that other people have tried to get an MLS listing together in 2 days. It doesn't come out accurately.
Mm-hmm.
Share important information about a property, including the presence of pets, security systems, and whether sellers will be present during the showing. Show courtesy, trust, and respect to the other real estate professionals, which is probably the key statement here. Avoid the inappropriate use of endearments or denigrating language. Do not prospect at realtors' open houses or similar events. Return keys promptly. Carefully replace keys in the lockbox, it shows. To be successful in business, mutual respect is essential, which is the code of conduct.
Mm-hmm.
Real estate is a reputation business. What you do today may affect your reputation in business for years to come.
Yeah, I can imagine, especially with the latest thing that I saw with one of the code changes or something like that. It said that there was going to be now a public penal system or something like that, where if a realtor gets pinged for a violation of any sort, now there's going to be some sort of record that's, well, not publicly to where everyone can see it, but to where other realtors can see.
I can't verify that. This hadn't come up in the program.
Okay, all right.
You can let's step up the conversation here and get into enforcement of code of ethics in the background. Association of Realtors are responsible for enforcing the code of ethics. That's in our case, Sarasota Manatee Association.
Mm-hmm.
That obligation includes providing mediation services and conducting arbitration hearings. Only realtor and realtor associate members are subject to the code of ethics. Associations in which realtors hold membership and or participate in the MLS have jurisdiction over those individuals to receive and resolve ethics complaints and arbitration requests. Associations do not determine whether law or real estate regulations have been violated. Those decisions can only be made by the regulatory authorities or courts.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Often difficulties between real estate professionals, whether realtors or not, result from misunderstanding, miscommunication, or lack of adequate ongoing communication. Open, constructive discussion often resolves questions or differences, diminishing the need for further action.
Okay, just wanted to touch on one point really quick. Let's see, that one does not determine whether law or real estate regulations have been violated. So then if that's the case, then I guess what would be the main difference between a violation of this code and something that's legally a problem?
Well, the association is a member organization, and we do there is a grievance relief for offended agents.
Okay.
And that is a process that is determined within the association, and it only goes that far.
Okay.
If it steps out into a lawsuit, it's usually out of our hands at that point.
So it's kind of like the first wall before you go and step into court.
And as I said earlier, 98% of these disputes are
mediation?
Mediation, and not mediation, even before that.
Really?
The grievance person is assigned to go over the interview of the candidates and determine to what extent they want to move forward.
Okay.
Usually it's resolved then. People either back off or take a more reasonable position on what had happened.
Okay.
Mediation is a step up. Mediation. Let's go over the informal dispute resolution. Ombudsman, a voluntary process in ethics where the parties communicate with an ombudsman whose primary role is communication and conciliation, not adjudication.
Okay.
Ombudsmen do not determine whether the ethics violations have occurred. Rather, they anticipate, identify, and help resolve misunderstandings and disagreements before they ripen into disputes and possible changes of unethical conduct.
Okay.
This is where most of the disputes within the association are settled. The next step is, yes, mediation. Mediation, every association will provide mediation services to members as required by Article 4 of the NAR bylaws.
Yeah. Okay.
I can still read Latin. That's a
Are you sure?
I thought it was something.
Yeah, no, that's 4. That's 4. Trust me, I've been trying to revamp my Latin lessons and it has not been going very well. So I totally get it. But going back to the ombudsman, so if I understand that correctly, that's pretty much another guy it's pretty much like an informal mediator, right, so to say?
I could be an ombudsman, but basically or this is a he or she position. Ombudsman is somebody who's appointed by the board to interview the aggrieved parties.
Okay, so they're just the interviewer. They're not necessarily a mediator or even worse, an arbitrator. Okay.
Every association will provide mediation service to members as required, and mediation is often conducted by an attorney.
Okay.
I have to get into this a little bit more to find out.
Yeah, no worries. I'm just making sure that all the newbie agents out there are fully understanding and grasping what the gravity of this ethics thing actually is and the steps
We're
there.
going to get into the gravity in a minute.
Yeah, all right, cool, awesome.
The ethics and complaints and arbitration request. Ethics, ask, is there a possible violation of the code of ethics? Arbitration, ask, is there an arbitrable issue, a monetary dispute? Typically a dispute over entitlement to cooperative commission in a transaction.
Okay.
Okay.
So it's more about difference between a violation of the ethics themselves versus a monetary thing, which is where arbitration would occur.
You can, yes.
Okay.
Informal dispute resolution, ombudsman, again, only available if offered as a service of the local association of realtors. Sarasota Manatee does have that ombudsman program in place.
Okay. Well, that's good to know. Okay. I don't think I'm going to be getting in trouble with them anytime soon.
The informal dispute, we may get in trouble after this broadcast.
Yeah, there you go. It's like, but then I'll go ahead and handle the heat on that one. So
the informal dispute resolution also involves voluntary on the part of the realtors and consumers. Associations have considerable latitude in developing criteria for serving as an ombudsman, should be familiar with the code of ethics, state real estate regulations, and current real estate practices. Realtors, staff, and others may act as ombudsmen.
So basically, you have to know what you're talking about.
Correct.
Okay.
The ombudsman can field and respond to inquiries, complaints about real estate transactions, ethical practices, and code enforcement issues. It can receive and respond to questions and complaints about members, solicit responses, and meet with disputing parties. Parties may decline to use this service. Ethics complaints resolved through an ombudsman are considered dismissed. Failure or refusal of a member to comply with the terms of the mutual agreed upon resolution permits the complaining party to file or refile an ethics complaint. The filing deadline is the date when the matter was originally brought to the attention of the group.
Okay, so what are some of the most important things to take away from that?
Take away from if you're involved or want to file a complaint with the association, that is the first process you'll go through.
Okay.
And that is, you'll be heard. You'll be heard fairly. You'll be interviewed. The counterparty will be tasked to interview, and then a report will be submitted to the grievance committee.
Okay, so what's the first step then? Suppose that a agent has done something against you. Where do you start? Do you go on the NAR website and fill out a form?
No, you come to the association.
Okay.
The association deals with it first.
Okay. So do you got to go somewhere in person, or is it?
There are people, if you look at the RASM webpage, there are areas there are a couple of areas there where you can enter in and do that, or you can give a call to somebody. Okay.
All right. No, that's good to know, just in case any of the new people out there need to, heaven forbid you actually end up there, but you never really know nowadays, and it's best to have that info.
All right.
Yeah, go ahead and go for it. So, I mean, I got plenty of other questions, but that's only because I am not a realtor, contrary to the announcement that was made last week. So no, that's not me. I'm not doing it. It was ironic though, mostly because just the day before I was doing another live event where I said, yeah, I'm really not doing that. I'm going to leave that game up to you guys because you people are a lot better at selling than I am. I'm just the marketing person over here. I could tell them how to do it. I just don't want to. Yeah, so, but then the next day that whole thing went out and it was going, oh, Joe Faulkner is our newest agent. I'm going, no, I'm not.
Well, it's an interesting word, selling, that you put in there. This profession can be selling, but most of the time it's helping people resolve their problems. They want to sell their home at a fair price. They want to, a buyer wants to be shown, a quality experience with the experience in the marketplace, what homes are available. They're relying on the agent to develop a list of homes that make sense for them, and then they go out and see it.
Yeah.
The process of communicating with them during that time is very important. Has a lot to do, as we talked about before, dealing with the public, dealing with from a transactional way with your customers, and sellers have a different set of issues to deal with, but it's all should fall under the general code of ethics, a moral presence with your right and wrong with what's going forward, which is really what the compass is.
Yeah, no, the one thing that I noticed while I was reading through it was just going, if you have a feeling that it might be the wrong thing to do, that it's probably the wrong thing to do. That's what I noticed.
Well, you should really go on to the standards and practices for code of ethics.
Yeah.
At the on the National Association of Realtors site.
Okay.
There's a preamble, duties of clients and customers. It goes on for about 5 or 6 pages here, which I'm not going to go through today.
No, I was going to say that was a rough read for me. Mostly just because I was going, okay, so let me see if I understand this. That's pretty much what it was just going through and just going, okay, let's see if I can understand all this legalese.
All right, there's a ton of information here, which I'm not going to go over today.
Of course.
The highlights of this is the promise of our profession. It's a 3-hour course. Most of you should have taken this course by now. It's required by National Association of Realtors. The catching up to schedules where you can get in may be closing, but you are in jeopardy of being dropped from the association if you haven't taken this and gotten credit for it.
Okay.
In summary, the issue really is following the code of ethics with regard to dealing with people. A lot of this is common sense, but when you get caught up in the frenzy and you get caught up with emotions, you often forget to do things like the sliding glass door on that house and the lights were left on. The customer comes and sees it, and then they yell at the listing agent. You're going to get some flack from that. So it's those kinds of things that you need to keep in mind as you go through your day. Dealing with people, operating within a property environment, and dealing with fair dealings with regard to commissions, which frankly I think is one of the big issues regarding a grievance, a serious grievance that might come up. And this can be between a broker and an agent. It can be between two counterparties, the seller, and how that evolves. So this is a way to get relief on this, to get heard. It's all legit, and I think that's it for now. If anybody wants more information, they can contact me at david@davidjacobssrq.com. Again, I'm a broker associate with Realty Partners. We're a growing firm as a virtual agent. We have many opportunities for successful agents to join us. Again, if you want to be in contact with me about that, you can contact me on my email address.
So that's the best way to get a hold of you, because
Yes.
I mean, especially with you being on the grievance council, I'm sure that you have more advice than anything else and concerns with that.
Well, I will after I take about 50 more hours of courses.
Really? I didn't know.
I don't start till January 1st.
Oh, okay. So that's when you actually get on the board itself.
Correct. Committee.
Oh, it's a committee.
I'm
Okay.
a committee.
I apologize about the verbiage. I'm still trying to learn
I'm
all the
afraid
terminology.
you ask me questions, you're going to put me on the spot.
Nah. I usually try to keep it basic, just so that way anybody else that's out there that doesn't really, or they're just getting into the game, then they know what's up and know how all the terms are connected, what they translate to, how to talk the talk, essentially. So that way then when they go out and network with other people, which I hope you're doing, then they can talk shop on an even keel, so to say.
We have a great mentoring program at Realty Partners if you're interested in learning more. We have 2 stages, one for beginners and also one for agents that are in the $2 million to $4 million range who want to step up their game. We can help you with that as well.
All right. I was going to say, anything else about ethics that you think anybody should know about, or?
No, not at the moment. There's a ton of information here. You need to go. You should have taken your code of ethics test by now. You would have gone over a lot of this material during that program. So I'm really repeating a lot of things, but I'm trying to emphasize what's important. The most important thing, one of the most important things is the damages awards next year are $15,000. So if you're involved with a significant grievance and it comes down to a final arbitration, the penalty can be up to $15,000. Now that is usually for a individual agent who has had repeated offenses. It's not something that will happen to somebody whose first offense and found against them. It's usually suspensions or minor things recorded, but that's a much higher penalty than they've had in the past.
Okay, so that whole $15,000 doesn't exactly apply to, say, the new person that just has a slight slip up, but more to the people that have repeat offenses, like you have to keep going to them and saying, no, you can't be doing that.
Correct.
Okay, all right. So just so anybody that's out there is not going, oh, I don't even know if I want to get into this now because 15, that's a big deal.
You know, the code of ethics is just not a sentence. It's a way of life.
Yeah.
In a profession that is mixed with different kinds of people, buyers, sellers, listing agents, buying agents, brokerages. There's a whole mix of dynamics that go on within this profession that can get complicated and people can get offended, and actually people could get hurt. So the code of ethics is the model for keeping a balance. What we'd like to see here at Realty Partners is a balance in your life and work. We balance life and work here pretty well.
Yeah.
So
Go ahead.
So I hope that helps. Thanks for the opportunity to speak today, Joe.
Yeah, no, thank you for coming on board. And just that way everybody gets a bit of direction on where ethics are going and how it's going to play into the new year and all that fancy business.
Again, I hope you all took your code of ethics course or class for the end of the year. You'll find out something if you didn't.
Yeah, I was gonna say I wouldn't want to be on the other end of that if I didn't take my ethics course.
It'll slow your career down a little bit.
Shoot, I would say it's going like, oh, by the way, this person doesn't have all the necessary.
The brokers are being told right now.
Oof.
If they have not taken it yet.
Oh, really? So the broker actually knows that.
Yes.
So there's no skirting around that.
No.
Interesting. All right. Well, then I guess that's what Thomas has on his plate already too. So
Thomas called me.
Oh, really?
I had already booked in my hours at courses at Rasm, so I didn't take it online.
Okay.
I like to be there in person.
Yeah. No, I get you. Like, I totally understand that. I'd rather have a conversation with someone about a certain issue than.
And we had a lot of examples or a lot of role playing during the time. There are a lot of case examples that were given, which is really too long for today. But if this went well, if it received well on the analytics, maybe we can do something more broad on this in terms of case examples or something like that.
Yeah, definitely. I'm pretty sure everybody out there would love a bit of a story or an example on how something like this is passed, what you did about it, how it was handled, and then how they can handle if someone has a complaint against them.
Right. Well, the examples are specific to a situation. So you're actually given two parties what the situation is, and you're asked to vote on whether it was a violation or not. So
is it more about the party rule? Like, is there a right answer or wrong answer, or is it just?
There is a right or wrong answer.
Okay.
It's not subjective. There's nothing subjective about it. It's all these persons did this. As a person who's looking at that, was there a violation or not?
Okay.
And I have the answers to that key.
I kind of saw them in the thing when I was flipping through it, because even then I was going, well, I don't know, is that a violation?
Right.
So, yeah.
It's much too long to go into.
Oh, definitely. Well, I guess that's why it's a 3-hour continuing education course and not just a 30-minute live event like what we're doing right now. So,
okay.
Definitely. Well, thank you so much, David. I appreciate you coming on and explaining a little bit about that, and hopefully we'll do this again.
I'm sorry you had to see the top of my head, but I had to look at notes.
Oh, no, it's fine. It's fine. It's like I was sitting here even going like, hold on, I gotta do this note, because I'm going to be writing about this later, doing a blog post review and whatnot. So that way anybody who missed it or doesn't want to watch the whole entire thing, they can go on to the joinrealtypartners.com blog. I'm one of the consistent writers on that site. So I guess just look out for that. It'll probably be published sometime later today, probably around 3 to 5 p.m. for all those out there that would rather read it. Yeah, so I guess that's going to be it. Happy Hanukkah to all of our Jewish friends out there, and we'll be celebrating Christmas here soon enough. And
Shalom.
Yeah. It's going to be great. All right, thanks again, David, and thank you everybody for joining in. We'll see you soon.
Thank you.